You can't keep getting away with it! You can't keep getting away with it!
Hello everyone, I am the Alanator and welcome back to another Invincible Guarding the Globe character profile, and today we are going to be talking about none other than Jesse Pinkman, Powerplex, a villain who really does not like Invincible. If you don't know how these videos work, then let me give a basic explanation. Essentially, this is a series where I will be covering every single elite character in Invincible Guarding the Globe, a mobile game by Ubisoft. In each video, I cover one specific character, explaining what they do and how to use them, as well as giving a brief description of them. With all that being said, let's go on with today's video. Alright, so let's start as always with a brief description. Powerplex is an attacker in the criminal organization, meaning he does an extra 20% damage to characters in the Earth's Defenders faction, but he takes an extra 20% damage from characters in the GDA faction. He has a medium movement speed and he is a melee character. His tags are as follows. He is a human malefactor and a technologist. Now for his base stats. He has a HP of 3,887, an attack of 2,586, and a defense of 645. His critical hit chance is 5% and his critical damage is 150%. His energy attack is 113% while his energy defense is 103%. However, his physical attack and physical defense are the same, being 102%. Now for his skills, or as I usually call them, his abilities. Firstly, we have Power Surge, where he will create an electric field, which is basically a AoE, that deals 50% of his base attack damage per second. While casting it, he stands still, but he does bounce back 35% of damage received, and he is immune to crowd control effects like stun, confusion, etc. After 4 seconds, the field explodes, dealing 130% of his base attack damage and reducing affected enemies' crit chance by 30% for 5 seconds. The ability has a cooldown of 23 seconds. I'd like to take a moment to talk about this because this is a very unique ability. Since the damage dealt is a percentage of his base damage, we can actually calculate how much damage it will deal to an enemy in the field for the full 4 seconds. 50% of his base damage is 1,293. If you're doing that every second for 4 seconds, simply times that number by 4 and you get 5,172. However, immediately after this, he then does 130% of his base attack damage, which then deals 3,361 damage. And if you add those two numbers together, that means that to one enemy, or to all enemies who stayed in the AoE for the full 4 seconds, and took damage from the explosion afterwards, had dealt to them 8,533 damage, a spectacular amount. The only problem is the AoE is not that big. I mean, it's a good amount, it's quite big, but compared to AoEs like, Doc Seismics, for example, it's quite small. B, he is left almost completely vulnerable in this state. Plus, if you have characters like Alan or Titan who have Taunt and aren't anywhere near Powerplex, no enemies are going to end up being affected by the AoE, because Alan or Titan will be attracting those enemies somewhere else. So an amazing amount of damage and a pretty unique ability, but it certainly has its flaws. At level 10, he will instead do 140% of his base damage, and he will also reduce the enemy's healing by 80%. The amount of damage he bounces back is increased to 60%, and instead of the explosion doing 130% of his base damage, it will do 175% of his base damage. And it will decrease their crit chance by 100% for 6 seconds, which basically means any characters affected will be completely unable to do crits for 6 seconds. That alone counters a handful of characters like Bulletproof, Omni-Man, Universa, etc. Once again, we can also calculate how much damage this will do. 140% of his base damage is 3,620, which when being done to an enemy over the course of 4 seconds will deal 14,480 damage. Then, after the explosion, it will deal a further 4,396 damage, totaling in about 18,876 damage. A beautiful amount. However, the flaws we mentioned earlier do still apply. His second ability, Technologically Advanced, is a passive ability. That means when there is a technologist on the team, they will receive a 15% energy attack boost and a 6% cooldown reduction. At level 10, they will instead receive a 35% energy attack boost and a 12% cooldown reduction. This ability will actually help with his synergies that we'll discuss later on. His third ability, Surge Protector, is another passive ability where every time he loses 8% HP, he will get a 2% energy damage boost. Now this actually improves his survivability by quite a bit, and the more survivability he has, the better his first ability will be due to, well, him not dying halfway through doing it. At level 10, he will instead have a 10% energy damage boost every time he loses 5% of his HP. And when his HP is at 25%, he gets a 10% energy defense boost, yet again, improving his survivability. His final ability, Electrical Kickback, has a very nice cooldown of 12 seconds. Whenever an enemy deals damage to Powerplex, he absorbs 50% of the damage for 3 seconds, and he will then throw himself onto the enemy with the highest attack stat, releasing 70% of the damage he absorbed. Bit of an okay ability, but at level 10 he will instead absorb 70% of the damage, then throw himself at the enemy with the highest attack damage, stunning them for 3 seconds and dealing 100% of the damage. This is an okay ability, in my opinion. Okay, now that that's all out of the way, let's talk about how to use him, starting with the artifacts. Now I know I said the better his survivability, the better his first ability will be, but do not use the GDA cloaking device, because if he goes invisible, then enemies will not target him during his first ability. If he goes invisible during his first ability, might I add, just to be a bit more specific in case, you didn't understand that when I first said it. And him getting attacked during his first ability is exactly what you want, because if he's not getting attacked and no one's near him, he's not going to be doing any damage to them. What you want is for him to be attacked but not killed. Hence why better survivability is important, but, maybe don't make him invisible. To me, I think you should use the Flaxen Anti-Aging Bracelet. His main ability does a lot of damage, so being able to do it faster is quite helpful. Now, for the skill priority list. In first place, I have Technologically Advanced, which might shock you after I gushed over Power Surge, and to be honest, I do see this skill being in second place instead. However, in my opinion, this is first place, simply because of how helpful it is with synergies, which we will talk about in just a moment. In second place, Power Surge. Amazing damage, but it has its flaws. In third place, I have Surge Protector, a good ability that greatly improves his survivability. In last place, Electrical Kickback. Not much I have to say, but it's definitely outclassed by the other 3 abilities. Now, as for where he should go, Powerplex can go just about anywhere, but 9 times out of 10, probably best not to put him in the number 2 slot. You're better off putting your tank or someone like Invincible or Seismic there. Now for his synergies, due to his second ability, Powerplex can synergize well with the Mauler twins, but mostly the ranged one due to his energy damage. But he can also synergize with Doc Seismic, one of the most meta characters in the game right now, who already on his own does a lot of damage. Being able to increase that damage by 35% and then also decrease his ability cooldown, and by the way, Seismic's main ability is amazing, is exactly why I put his Technologically Advanced ability in first in the priority list. As for his tier, I'd say Powerplex is a solid A tier. He has good synergies and his main ability has a lot of potential to do a lot of damage, but it comes with very noticeable flaws that weigh him down. Alright, well, that is it for today's video. If you did enjoy it or found it useful, then please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified every time I post a video. Next time we'll be doing a character from the GDA faction, and like usual, soon after this video, a poll will be going up and you guys will be able to vote on it and decide who I speak about next. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time.